Stellantis CEO Carlos Tavares says nothing is off the table as the company tries to turn around its sagging profits. He told reporters at the Paris Auto Show that he's even considering plant closures.
He also said eliminating brands would be an option to help the company's bottom line. The automaker's profits are down almost 50% compared to this time last year. Here to discuss is Wayne State University Professor Emeritus Merrick Masters. Merrick, thanks for being here today.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so this seems to be pretty dire straits for Stellantis. Can you describe the situation, the overall situation that the company finds itself in right now?
The overall situation is declining sales, which have led to declining profits. They forecast that their operating margins will be about half of what they were last year for the forecast for the rest of the year. And as a result of that, they're having to look hard at their brands and their footprint, their employment footprint in the United States and globally.
Okay, and if they're looking at the possibility of even closing some plants, I'd imagine that doesn't fare well with some of those workers who are already frustrated. How does this help their confidence in the company?
Well, I think there's a lot of apprehension on the part of workers due to the difficulty in the transition to EVs and the uncertainty about the market, generally speaking. Its market has softened. China is obviously eclipsing many other companies, nations' companies in the EV market, and that poses threats in the future. So when I look at the overall situation for the industry as a whole in the U.S., it's not very bright. It's far removed from what it was just a few months ago during the record contracts over record profits in 2023. What you see now is a rude awakening to some extent. Stellantis has already had to lay off employees. It's now embroiled in a major battle with the UAW over its delay in plant investments that were planned as part of the 2023 Accord.
Yeah, we've heard similar complaints about demand being down, competition from China, from some of Stellantis's rivals. Do you think we're going to hear similar announcements from some of the other automakers, or is Stellantis particularly in a tough position?
Well, I think Stellantis is in a particularly tough position, particularly in North America. They've indicated that they overshot in terms of pricing, and I think they felt that their strategy in this part of the world just wasn't up to snuff. And what they've done, interestingly enough, is set that by the year 2026, they're going to make decisions about whether to go ahead with 14 models. And that is an acceleration of their 2030 plan by about 4 or 5 years. And they're going to make some tough decisions. Tavares' term is up in 2026, and he's going to set the stage for a successor to make those hard choices that will affect the jobs of potentially thousands of workers in the United States and in Europe.
Yeah, they certainly do have some tough choices to make. What are your thoughts on the fact that there is also the possibility of strikes still in the background?
Well, I think that they're looming. I think that obviously there's a war of sorts brewing between Stellantis and the auto workers. Stellantis has filed a very serious suit against the auto workers, alleging that they are on the verge of committing an illegal practice, and that is engaging in a strike what they consider to be a violation of the 2023 agreement. The UAW is saying that the company has already violated that agreement by not promising and living up to its commitments and investment, particularly in the Belvidere, Illinois plant. This will be resolved, I think, in negotiations and with the possibility of a strike rather than the courts. Working their way through the courts will take a long period of time to resolve. But nonetheless, the suits escalate the tensions between the company and the union, and I would expect that they're only going to continue until they reach a resolution of this over in some way about what to do about commitments that the company made in terms of product investments.
These labor disputes, the future of EVs, competing with China, these are all huge topics on the campaign trail right now. Do you think what happens in November at the state or national level will have an impact on what happens going forward with automakers like Stellantis?
I think it's a pivotal election in that regard. The candidates could not be more diametrically opposed in terms of how they view the transition. to electrification. I think if Trump were to get elected, you would see the brakes put on as much as he could, the mandates through auto emissions to accelerate the production and the sale of electrical vehicles. I think he would let the market substitute for that. And he would have a different approach, I think, to investing in companies, and would be more aggressive, I think, about pursuing tariffs with respect to the import of lower cost electrical vehicles from China, perhaps through Mexico.
Yeah, a lot to come, a lot to think about going into this election and after. Professor Merrick Masters, as always, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Have a good evening.
You too.